when I was... Achoo! Oh, that's better. Anyway, when I was growing up, my family couldn't afford cable. So, I only had access to things like PBS, Cookie Jar TV, and 4Kids. Of course, this made my childhood a little boring because I wasn't able to watch things like Ed, Edd n Eddy or Phineas and Ferb, but I still had access to a fair deal of fun shows. And today I'd like to tell you about my favorite. So, without further ado, here's why I love Chaotic.
Sitting in the living room, watching cartoons, flipping through the Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, and Nicktoons, hanging with my friends, animated on the screen, chilling out on the couch in front of my TV. Yeah, anything is possible when you're calling impossible, just like the American Dragon, nothing is impossible. Phineas and Ferb taking rocket ships to space, Zack and Cody pulling pranks, making Mosby red in the face. Like when Eddie scams a cul-de-sac, trying to get some cash, Hector V is gonna stop him and leave him flat on his ass, while the Powerpuff Girls are stopping him in his tracks. I'm headed back to the past like I'm Samurai Jack. Got a blast off to Retroville, chill with the boy Genius. Call me the Avatar, cause I'm rising up like a phoenix, defeating the gods and ghouls, facing off against Danny Phantom, chilling in Bikini Bottom with Sponge and Pat acting random.
Sometimes life can give us more than we can take. You might just get a dreadful feeling forming. When things are stressful, don't give up, just take a break. Sit down and watch cartoons just like we did back on Saturday mornings.
What is Chaotic?
Chaotic started as a Danish card game called Grolls and Gorks, before being bought by 4Kids and being rebranded as Chaotic Now or Never, then eventually just Chaotic. The cartoon was created by Merlin P. Mann and Martin Roth, and it follows 4 teenagers, Tom, Sarah, Kaz, and Peyton, and their adventures in the world of Chaotic.
The Good.
4Kids is infamous for their poor English dubs and adaptations of foreign animation, which probably caused a lot of people to be generally uninterested in Chaotic. But, since the show was created by 4Kids directly, the issues that appear in their anime dubs are virtually non-existent. They were able to make the content child-friendly for an American audience from the beginning and thus didn't have to censor anything. And because of this, the show holds up really well, even by today's standards. And, in a lot of ways, it's better than a lot of other kids' cartoons, for multiple reasons. For one, the show has actual stakes. Bad things happen, people mess up, and when they do, it lasts, even if only for a few episodes. It's better than something happening than returning to the status quo immediately. In one episode, really early on, Tom loses his Maxor card to help save a friend who's trapped in Param, and he doesn't get him back immediately, and not having Maxor makes him a worse player because he loses his confidence. Speaking of which, I also like that this show, that was made for kids, has a protagonist that isn't perfect. He doesn't win every battle. When he first gets to Chaotic, he has no idea what he's doing, which it makes sense. He can be cocky sometimes, or even stubborn, putting himself and his friends in danger. Hell, he isn't even always the best person. In the first episode, he denounces his friendship with his best friend because his scanner stops working when he goes to Chaotic for the first time. Another reason a lot of people may be turned off to the series is the rather limited Flash animation, which is fair. I normally can't stand Flash, but Chaotic finds a way to work around it and makes the style work really well. So much so that when the series goes through a drastic style change in the second season, it's extremely jarring and, in ways, can be seen as worse. One of the ways they make the style work is with the designs. The creature and location designs are super cool. Like, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've played the Pokemon card game. I've played Magic the Gathering. Not a single one of them has card art that's anywhere near as amazing as the art from the Chaotic card game, and I'll take that opinion to my grave. Forget dirt. When I die, bury me under a mountain of Chaotic cards. So while I was taking notes, I kind of just wrote down some names of one-off characters and creatures from the show, and I don't know where to put them, so I'm kind of just going to read off the list in the middle of this section. Sam Shady, Bodil, Zerv, Magmon, Borth Majar. That's it. I never said it was a long list. Another major highlight of the show is the music. The Chaotic theme song is legitimately one of the top 10 cartoon theme songs of all time. If you'd like me to make a video of my top 10 cartoon theme songs, just leave a comment below and I'll maybe. And there's amazing music throughout the show because of the music system, which in and of itself is also really cool. Whenever a creature or player uses music, the tune for the music plays with a simple melody. Then, as the music is taking effect, there's an orchestral version of the same tune with CG animation that, for the time, was actually pretty good. Still holds up better than Jimmy Neutron, though, let's be honest. A telltale sign of a great show, at least to me, is a villain that you love to hate, and Chaotic has some of those as well. It's implied that none of the tribes are truly good or evil, despite one of them having literal Satan as their leader, but there are a couple of evil characters. But they're not the focus of this section. The characters I'm going to talk about are Clay and Cristela, the bullies of the series. We're never really given a reason why they act the way they do, at least not for Clay, but we also never really need one. We're given all we need to know. They've been in Chaotic for a long time, they prey on new players, and they hate the main characters because they watch the new players' backs and because they're generally better people and players than them. One of the best moments with Clay is when Tom beats him in a fight, and he's all like, "He cheated!" Then the Codemaster tells him,
He used your strengths against you. That's not cheating, that's strategy.
I have never loved a line in an animated series so much in my life. One of the coolest things about the show is that in order to get new creatures, battle gear, music, and locations to use in the Chaotic matches, the players have to scan them, and this can come at a bit of a price. For one, a player can only scan one of each scannable item at a time, and the scans can be affected by the current state of whatever they're scanning. If a creature is sick, the scan of the creature will be sick. If a location has a virus in it, the scan of the location comes with the virus. If the battle gear is damaged, it'll be damaged in-game. On top of that, when the player is playing a creature, they gain the knowledge and experiences of said creature, making for some interesting battles and stories, like the episode where Tom beats a tank of Toborn as Bodil because of his knowledge of the location they're in. I really like when someone is defeated playing the game because the creatures explode into code, which is really cool because while the scanners aren't explained well, it is told to the audience that they scan the code of a creature. You know, because it's called a code scanner. I forgot to write this part, but the reason that happens is because the Chaotic cards each had a special code so that you could use your card on the online game when the show was still running. The franchise also has some really amazing card lore. Every single creature is fleshed out, even though most of them only appear once or twice. And most of the time, they don't even serve a purpose for the story. Though, as much as I love the lore, it does come with a downside.
The bad.
If you play a card game, or a video game, or any kind of game with a story, you most likely know the lore of it, especially if you're good at it. You would at least know how the different gear and creatures work. Or, at the very, very least, their fucking names. So why, please, somebody, Brian C. Gannon, Jason Griffiths, anybody explain to me why the fuck Tom doesn't know anything? I get that the lore has to be explained to players, but it doesn't make any damn sense that the guy who's literally the best player at his school doesn't know anything about the fucking game he's so damn good at. And that's another thing. In 2006, if you like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or anything similar, and you played it in school, you got fucking bullied. So how the hell is this dork who loves Chaotic so goddamn popular? When I got to high school in 2014, I was terrified to admit that I still love Pokemon, because I didn't want to get picked on, and this motherfucker is sitting here at lunch, kicking kids' asses in fucking Chaotic like it's nothing. I get it, it's a science fiction show, but I don't care how fictional it is, this shit is too fucking unrealistic. Not to mention that they play the online game at school. When I was in school, any website that played games that weren't educational was blocked. But I digress. The lore could have been better explained if it was something that most players didn't know, and it was explained to the characters and the audience through the creatures directly. But instead, they just make their main character look like a fucking idiot. There was one point in the show where Sarah calls Tom a genius, then she revokes that claim, and I agree with her. Dude's a fucking moron. Another major issue, in my opinion, is that despite the show being a tie-in for the card and online game, the show does a really poor job explaining the rules. If somebody decided to get into the game because of the show, they'd have no idea what the fuck they're doing, and they'd probably give up pretty quickly. Unless they're Yu-Gi-Oh fans. They understand the feeling. The show also has a few continuity issues. The biggest example I can think of is early on in the show, Kaz states that his last name is Kaczynski, but as the show goes on, it's changed to Galinkas. On top of all of that, there is so much shit they don't even actually explain. In the beginning of the show, we're told that the way Chaotic works is that they transport their code there, and while they're in Chaotic, there's another version of them in the real world. Which is all well and good, except they don't explain how the hell it works. When Tom asks, Kaz asks him,
how'd they get the cream in a cupcake? Who knows?
Me! I know! They fill the cupcake before they fucking bake it! Now tell me how this code shit works!
And that's just the tip of the iceberg! The show leaves so many fucking questions unanswered, a list of which I also wrote in my notes while rewatching the show, and I'll read them off here. Who made the Chaotic card and online games? Param is very clearly a real place with real living creatures, which means somebody had to discover it and make a game out of it. Was it the Codemasters? Who are the Codemasters? Are they human? Are they creatures of Param? Are they some weird in-between? How do players buy food at the port court? Or is it free? If they do buy it, does that mean there's a currency in Chaotic? How do the players receive this currency? Do they buy it with actual cash, or do they earn it through drone matches? How does scanning newly created battle gear or music work? If a player in Param scans something that was just made, does that mean they have access to it in their online deck? Or is brand new gear and music exclusive to players who have access to Param? Does it hurt to battle? I'd assume not, since the players do it frequently, but they always react like they're in pain when they're hit or take a fall. Does this mean that they do feel pain that doesn't linger? Or is it just a natural reaction to what would normally be painful? If someone dies in Param, what happens to them in the real world? If someone dies in the real world, what happens to them in Param? There are many, many more questions that could be asked. And I understand why a lot of them aren't. They don't need to be, they have no bearing on the story. But when you're someone like me who likes to analyze shows like this, you're gonna spend the entirety of it questioning things like this. All in all, despite its flaws, Chaotic is a really good show with amazing characters and stories. It wasn't too often you'd see character growth in an American animated series. The usual formula was characters doing something in character every week and never learning or changing throughout the entirety of the show. As of recently, character growth has become more abundant, but in 2006, it was mind-blowing. In 2019, Brian C. Gannon reacquired the rights to Chaotic with the plan to revive the original series and continue from where it left off. My hope is that through this revival, the franchise gets more fans. I also have hopes for some new stuff that I would like to come from it. The thing I want most being a VR game. The premise of the show is a perfect setup for it, since in VR you could become and control the creatures directly while playing the game. It'd be the closest we could get to porting to Chaotic like they do in the show. It'd also be cool to have matches of the game streamed live to the in-game hub the way they are on the show. For now though, we do have a fan revival of the online card game called Chaotic Recode that'll be linked in the description. I didn't really go too in depth with this one because there's not much I can really say about Chaotic without either spoiling huge plot points or just repeating what other, much more talented people have already said. To make up for that, I'll leave a link to Billiam's Chaotic Was Weird video in the description, as well as links to the official Chaotic playlist so that people who are interested in watching or rewatching the series can do that. And yes, for the record, the entire series is available for free on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best shows to ever air on television. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. If you're a fan of the series, feel free to join my Discord server where I try to be as active as possible and post teasers for future Why I Love videos. If you made it this far, tell me your favorite Chaotic tribe in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay righteous.